Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. My name is Taylor McCabe Bianchi. I'm the Executive Director of Rural Schools Collaborative. And I think we're going to give folks just a few more minutes to get dialed in here, but it's so good to see you all, and we'll get kicked off in just a couple minutes. All right, we will likely have a few folks joining as we get started, but it's so good to see everyone. Welcome again to those who have just joined. I'm Taylor McCabe Bianchi. I'm the Executive Director here at Rural Schools Collaborative, and we are so excited to be here with you all today for our celebration of learning today, to celebrate our Celia B. Godsall Grants in Place Fellows and their projects that they've been completing over the last year. So a little bit about Rural Schools Collaborative. For those of you who don't know, we are a national nonprofit with a mission of creating sustainable rural communities. And we do that through a keen focus on place, on teachers, and on philanthropy. And so this project is just a wonderful intersection of all three of those pillars. You have place-based projects that these excellent teachers have been working on over the last year. You've got incredible rural teachers who are leaders in their community. And it has really been our pleasure and joy to work with Celia B. Godsall and her husband to help fund this program over the last 3 years and support these amazing projects. So thank you again so much to the Godsalls and their philanthropy for their support of this project. So I'm really excited to hear from each of the teachers. I want to thank you all so much for your dedication to your students, to this work, and thank you for being here on a Friday in June. I think with that, I am going to kick it over to the folks who have been working really hard behind the scenes to make this year a success. I'm excited to introduce you folks to Savannah Franklin from the Rural Schools Collaborative team and Leslie Cook from Teton Science Schools, who will guide us through the event today.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Taylor. Thanks for having me here today. And thanks to all of you for being here with us. My name is Leslie Cook, and I am the head of professional learning at Teton Science Schools. And it is my great pleasure to get to facilitate this afternoon and really to let the fellows share with all of you about the amazing work and the projects that they've done over the course of this year. So I want to share with you a little bit about our plan and kind of order of events. It's pretty simple. We're just giving a little welcome and overview now. Then the bulk of our time will be having each of the fellows share presentations about their place-based projects. Each of the fellows will have about 4 minutes to share. They'll be speaking about themselves, talking a little bit about their community, their places, their schools, and their projects, and talking about the impacts that those projects had in their place and with their students. We invite you to use the chat to share with the fellow questions that you have or celebrations for them as well. And then at the end of all of the presentations, if we have time, which we hope we will, we'll allow for hopefully a few out loud questions and also for everyone to unmute and share some gratitude and applause as well. So we have a little bit of that good energy from celebrating and sharing. And so with that, I would like to announce our first fellow. So Catherine Vaughn, please take it away.
Hi, my name is Catherine Vaughn, and I am a rural elementary art and STEM teacher from West Tennessee, representing the Appalachia region. My theme and my project this year was a community STEAM night. My project aimed to introduce the community to the concept of STEAM education as a way to prepare for our future workforce. The area that I live in is going to be in a lot of change. We are within 10 miles of where Ford is going to open their largest motor vehicle investment in the United States, a new electric vehicle plant they're calling the Blue Oval. So one of our priorities in education in this rural community is to prepare our students for these STEM careers of the future. My school has over 700 pre-K through 5th grade elementary students. We're Title I. We're situated in the middle of a cotton field. It's a very rural environment, and we want to get these students ready. So as an art teacher, I took STEM and added the A for art, STEAM, and we created this night for our students. It featured STEM themed art show, which the kids did STEM projects and then created a piece of art to go on display based on that. We did all kinds of fun experiments. We had booths for community artists, representatives from the local museum and nature center, and a visit from Ford's Blue Oval team so they could see the important work that we're doing as we prepare these students for their arrival. Unfortunately, a storm came. So right before we were supposed to have our night, my community was hit by an F3 tornado, and it destroyed 2 of our schools. It destroyed almost every building in between my home and my school. Luckily, my school was spared, but our community went through a lot. It says over 540 structures damaged and about $37 million in costs related to the storm. It's an incredible sight to drive and just to see places where buildings and grocery stores and convenience stores and schools, even our STEM shed you can see in the bottom picture, was knocked over. Everything's just been flattened. So we had to reschedule. I quickly pivoted the art show to online only, which allowed students and their families to access the art and view it online. And it ended up being our most successful art show ever. You could see us during the tornado. I have a 1-year-old, and he had just learned to say uh-oh. And so as the tornado was going overhead, he was in the tub with me going uh-oh. So yay, we're using words in context. But our community, we rebounded. We're on our way. So we rescheduled, and yep, here we go. So a community rebuilds. Ford Motors stepped up and offered to build 2 temporary schools for our 2 schools that had been destroyed. They're in the process of building them now. They've gone a little bit further than that. They look like tents right now, but they'll be ready August 1st for our students. And we pushed the STEAM night to later in the year, and we rescheduled it for May, and we had over 100 families attend with multiple children, and they rotated through about 10 STEAM-based themed centers, and it was amazing. So the next slide, you'll see some pictures. Yeah, so we had quite a bit of events and things that we planned out with money for the grant. We had our mayor came, our art center and museum came. They do STEM related activities in their nature center throughout the year. So they were able to tell our students about some of their free programming. We had kids making lava lamps and learning how to create little airplane projects. I was teaching them how to tie-dye tiles with a chemical reaction. It was a great event, and it was really the first big event since the tornado hit, where our families could come together and have this kind of fellowship in our community. And we really appreciated it. Our families really appreciated it. So I think our students will be ready to focus on the future and get ready for the arrival of Blue Oval and rebuilding our community. And we're so thankful for you all and your investment in our community. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Catherine, for sharing. Wow, that devastation in your community and how you overcame it in such positive ways in collaboration with Ford and in celebration through a STEM night, at STEAM night. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you all.
Next up, in just a moment, before that, just a quick reminder for everyone that if you have celebrations, questions, comments for each of the fellows as we go, you're welcome to add those to the chat. So yeah, please share those with Catherine, and we'll transition to our next fellow. So Teresa Nig from Arizona.
Hello, yes, I'm Teresa Nig. I teach 4th grade gifted at Starline Elementary in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. My project was to provide my students with a place-based learning activity where they would design, run, and sustain a classroom mini-city, all while striving to accumulate money and assets in this project dealing with local government and economics. To prepare my students for this simulation, we partnered with the community to provide the background knowledge of how a city operates. This included meeting with city officials and visits from business owners and utility companies. We also took many field trips, including the police station, fire department, local bank, and the city council office. Next slide, please. Kid City was facilitated by the gifted teachers, but the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students were responsible for the operations. The 4th grade students were in charge of the bank and post office. They counted and sorted money, recorded daily deposits, and were in charge of providing shoppers with money each day. They also sorted and delivered mail to each class. The 5th graders created and ran their own businesses, providing either a good or a service. The 6th grade students planned the city's geographical and political structure, elected officials, and appointed individuals to city positions. Next slide, please. The grand opening of Kid City made a huge impact on the students and community. This event was organized by the 6th grade students. City officials and parents were invited to attend the ceremony in which the city mayor exchanged keys with the Kid City mayor. Honorary dignitaries were presented with the custom Kid City pen. The Chamber of Commerce performed a ribbon cutting ceremony, and everyone was invited to go shopping. As you can see, it was a lot of fun. Last slide, please. The next 3 days following the grand opening were filled with shoppers as all students, grades K through 6, over 600 students had the opportunity to visit Kid City. The business owners promoted their products to increase their sales. The bank and post office kept busy passing out money, making changes, and helping younger students to fill out postcards. The 6th grade city officials were present to ensure businesses were complying with Kid City guidelines and even passed out fines for violations. This simulation helped the students to gain real-world experience, whether they were a business owner, running and designing the city, or just a consumer. Students, parents, and the community all played a valuable role and enjoyed this experience. Thank you so much for the Rural Schools Collaborative for this opportunity by making Kid City a success now and for the future years. Thank you.
Oh, Teresa, what a successful event. Thanks for sharing. And it's really exciting, as Taylor wrote in the chat, to see how you're preparing students for careers and connecting them with their place in community. Thank you. As before, please feel free to share congratulations and questions with Teresa in the chat. And we will proceed to our next presenter. So please join me in welcoming Paula Tan from the Driftless region of Wisconsin. Paula.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paula Tan. I wanted to make sure that I set my timer here so I didn't go too long. Sorry, I should have had that queued up. So I'm from Wisconsin. You can see that where that little star is on your screen there, southern Wisconsin, just north of Madison. My project was to revitalize our school forest. So Wisconsin has a very unique school forest program where you actually are registered with the state and work with the Department of Natural Resources to harvest timber and have a forest management plan, and then also use the place as an outdoor classroom. So there are over 700 school forests in the state of Wisconsin. Ours was donated to our school district in the 1930s, and basically through kind of a revolving door of agriculture teachers, a lot of people who were working when I was working had never been there and didn't know that it existed. And so a group of us formed a committee and wanted to revitalize our school forest, paying attention to the forest health, the physical accessibility at the site, and also curriculum that we could use. So our big dream for down the road is that every Lodi student visits the school forest at least once a year. And that's we have about 1,000 students that we're hoping that can be out there each year. So in the next slide, you can see some before and after pictures. So on the left there is the before. So the only real infrastructure that was out there was basically trails that our cross-country coach had made. So if you see that little picture up there that's hand-drawn, that's the map that he drew. And then on the right there, that's what it actually looks like when we did it with GPS. So, and he had like little signs that were named after like runners of his. So the first thing that we did is, and then you can see where my car is parked there, like there's no parking lot. So that's where you park, which is obviously not great and safe for kids. So the first thing we did was really get some signs. So in the bottom right there, our Fab Lab created a sign that we can put on the road. So it's marked on the side of the road. And then we mapped the trails, put out some wayfinding signs there that you can see the different colored arrows so people don't get lost. Posted it for no hunting, put a porta potty out there, just made it accessible so that people know where it is. And then we also have a screenshot there of a website that we started so that people in our community can access it. On the next slide, you can see that we have big goals in the future for building a parking lot, having a large pavilion, and that sort of thing. But we really wanted to start bringing out students now. So these are all pictures of like middle school hiking club, elementary classes, our high school ecology classes, high school agriculture classes, just using the site for classroom stuff. There are pictures of students here removing some invasive species to get ready for a timber harvest that's going to be happening next fall. So that part of the committee has been working with DNR, and we have a forest management plan ready to go. So they're going to be harvesting red pine that was hand planted by Lodi students in the 1960s. So that's really, really cool for us. And we have a lot of oral history of people remembering being at the school forest. So it's really neat to kind of see that it's getting used again. On the next slide, you can see how our work has impacted adults. So we had a citywide community service day called Lift Lodi, where people did some trail work out there. So those are some adults and like community members that came out, and we were one of the sites for that community-wide service day. And then we also, our district was able to approve us doing a professional development day there in August, where we everybody gets curricular pay to plan ahead to be able to use the school forest next fall. So we're really excited about that and planning our professional development day. I also just want to note down in the corner there that we were able to secure a program for an off-road wheelchair. So if you have any students with accessibility needs, that was a really cool for us thing to be able to figure out too. One of our big things is having a handicap restroom, being sure that we have like trails that are accessible to all abilities. So yeah, we've got a ways to go, but it's been a really successful year so far.
Oh, thanks so much, Paula. I love hearing how both you're impacting the students now and that you're setting up the systems for the future as well by having the website, the trail signs, the maps, all those parts. That's really exciting. And the accessibility of supporting students in wheelchairs getting out there as well. Thank you so much for your project and work.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, our next presenter is Carlin Smock from the Illinois Hub. Carlin.
Hi, like she said, my name's Carlin Smock, and this is my 13th year of teaching high school social studies. I love it. I've only been back in my hometown just for a few years. And when I came back, I started getting really involved with our local history, our historical society. And this year I really noticed that we had kind of a hole in our local history, and that we could really do some stuff. The kids weren't as involved as I thought they could have been. And so with this grant, well, we actually started a history club on top of everything, but with the grant, we were able to purchase an iPad and some audio equipment, microphone, tripod, and also some plaques, which we'll talk about that in just a minute. And so what we decided to do is that we were going to create short videos for our historic sites. And so that we would do the research, we would write the script, we would video everything, edit it together, and then we would use those plaques on the sites to have QR codes so that anybody that visited it, they would be able to learn about it. Because, you know, we're a small town, we're a small community, our museums can't be open constantly. And so this was a great way that when people would walk by, they wanted to know a little more, even if it's not open, they'd scan the QR code and learn a little bit more about those sites. And so if you want to click. So this is the first one that we were able to finish. We got 2.5 done, but we'll talk about the future. And our first one down at the bottom, this is one of our old general stores. I think it was at the time the longest standing business in Carmi, and now it's our Historical Society Museum. Leslie, if you want to click that, it's just a short clip of this.
In 1896, Hale and his siblings financed the construction of an impressive building on Lot 73. As the building was erected, everyone couldn't help but notice what a grand place it was becoming. At the same time, a German immigrant named Louis Haas, who settled in Carmi around 1868, owned a successful dry goods business. Mr. Haas's business would eventually be the first to occupy the new building in 1896, and he was very proud to be there. Newspaper articles can be found of Mr. Haas calling the building one of the most handsomest and best appointed buildings in this part of the country. He goes on to boast that customers will find the biggest store with the littlest prices in Carmi.
So that's just a snippet. It's about 5 minutes long, and it literally goes from the beginning of basically when Carmi was kind of founded and when they started building to what it is today. And, you know, it's really been interesting because it is such a it's a challenge to find, you know, local history. You really have to dig, because it's not like, you know, Abraham Lincoln, you can Google anything on Lincoln and find it. But for our stuff, our kids have really gotten that opportunity to get in and find out a lot of stuff and experience research. Go ahead. Oh. To finish the Matzel cabin. That's one of our cabins. It's, you don't have to play that one, but it's just a little bit about our one of our local cabins we kind of found in some brush one time several years ago, and they've made it into a museum. We're working on our old graveyard, and some of the founders in Carmi are in there. So that's the one that got halfway done before the school year ended. And you can go ahead and click.
Hurry, grab.
Yeah. And then last, these are just some of our kids that have helped with our museum openings. They have just been a presence in helping so much. A lot of these are seniors, and I'm going to miss so much next year. But they've really set the standard for what this is and their historic collections. So we're going to continue to make videos in the future and for our history club meetings, and we have a YouTube channel so the community can see that too. So it's been really rewarding, and I appreciate this grant so much because it is something that we'll continue on, and that we're
Awesome. Carlin, thank you so much. And I love that we got to see some clips of the student videos. I wonder if you might even add those to the chat, the links to those videos to the chat for us, so folks who are interested could check them out further.
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, great work, and congratulations on your successful project as well. Thank you. And our next presenter is Heather Comer from Indiana and the Great Lakes Hub. Heather.
Hello, hi, it's a beautiful day here in Indiana, so I'll take off my sunglasses while I'm waiting. Can everybody hear me okay? My name is Heather Comer. I'm from Greensburg High School in Indiana, Southern Indiana, and my project is twofold. It's called Mentors and Manuscripts, and it's both teacher and student led, so it became twofold pretty much early on. Firstly, I piggybacked off of our Governor Holcomb initiative of Grow Your Own. And I developed a new pathway for 81 high school students to experience the teaching field firsthand, taking them to multiple locations throughout our community, the local YMCA, our elementary school, the local learning center. So through this, they were able to receive 120 hours of hands-on experience, They were eligible to sit for their CDA exam, which I had 2 students pass that. A total, they needed 480 hours, so not everybody could sit for that. But I had 2 high school students who will be walking across the stage tomorrow at commencement, and they already have full-time positions. And then they also got dual credit to get accepted into the education program at Ball State and ISU. So ultimately, we were growing and educating our own students to be teachers in our community someday, and hopefully come back and give back to their community. So with part of that grant, I got them all uniforms. So we would all be uniformed. It was very professional. We had badges. So that was a great experience. So this part of the project was led by me. The second part of the project, my future educators were challenged to find a need in our community. So I said, you know, as a teacher, you guys need to lead an initiative on your own. So this part, as you can see in the picture, we partnered with a local author, Kim Howard. She's the author of Grace and Box. And she showed all of our first graders, 150 first graders, the process of writing and illustrating a book. And then my 81 high school student teachers partnered with those 150 first graders, and they, over the semester, dictated and illustrated their own stories. So anything from fairy tales to narratives, working on character development, setting, plot, so on and so forth. So that was eye-opening for a lot of my students because they were working with really young students, and they loved it. They loved every second of it. This is a picture of them holding their books up at the top. We gave them their first book, finished manuscript, at Christmas time. So some of my students there, they're dressed up as elves. And then those are all the first grade students when Kim Howard came and visited. And then we took it a step further, and we partnered with the 5th grade students, senior English honors students, and our broadcasting and mass media class at the high school. And each student chose their favorite book, and they created a podcast book review, much like the old school Reading Rainbow that some of us know. But I wanted it to be more hip because a lot of kids were like, Reading Rainbow, what are you talking about? So I asked them, well, how do you know you want to watch a Netflix series or a movie? And they said, well, we watched the trailer. And I said, okay, then make a trailer for your favorite book in a podcast style. So I have a couple of links there that just have a quick snippet of some of the kids talking, but we are going to take these podcasts and we're going to upload them to our local public library as a tab, and then our school website, and then also broadcast on our local radio show. We have a radio show at the high school, but we also have our own radio station. So we're going to do that after they announce lunch for the day. They're going to do a quick snippet of books. So really fun project. And I hope out of those 81 students, we're going to get some kids who want to enter the teaching profession.
Oh, thank you so much, Heather. I think at this time, as sadly too many teachers are leaving education, it's really exciting to hear how you are building up the next generation of educators in your students. The layer of mentorship, and then the layer of promoting literacy in your place and in other schools in your community is just really exciting. Thank you so much for your work and what you shared. And I'm excited to welcome next Isabella Myers from the Iowa Hub. Isabella.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I'm Bella Myers. I'm a second-year teacher. I teach art to grades 6 through 12 at Coon Rapids Bayard School. We're a small rural school district in Western Iowa. Our pre-K to 12 school is all in one building with 437 students, and we serve a community with a population of about 2,000 people. So this project was to fund new cross-disciplinary curriculum for CRB. It was for a darkroom photography course. The course was designed to incorporate 3 main elements: interdisciplinary coursework, utilizing the community as classroom, and inquiry-based learning that was learner-centered. The course integrated visual arts in the science classroom, implementing creative thinking to model and develop explanations and encourage critique and evaluation. I centered the CRB community on White Rock Conservancy, a 5,500 acre nonprofit land trust located near Coon Rapids along the Middle Raccoon River Valley. I had frequent guest speakers, including Liz Garst, the founder and treasurer of White Rock, professional artists, and Mr. Neese, our high school science teacher. Students were encouraged to create a photographic series to develop on their own in our storage closet turned dark room. Go to the next slide, please. The course began with the big question of how do we transmit images? We traced the history of photography to its most basic elements with scientific experiments in the lab led by Mr. Neese. We learned how to silver plate copper for 19th century style daguerreotype photography, and students experimented with mixing their own solutions to create UV sun cyanotype prints. This helped students to understand the basic fundamental chemistry of photography, and students also learned applied optics to better understand the camera lens, and they built their own camera obscuras to demonstrate their learning. Next slide, please. The class met with local experts to discuss relevant topics. We met with Liz Garst on site at White Rock to learn about oak savanna and land management and how we as humans impact our environment. We also met with Dean Schopner, a local retired photographer, and he taught students how to read a light meter and how to focus a lens with a loop using an old 4x5 view camera. We also heard from Paul Gertler, a wildlife photographer visiting Coon Rapids as the artist in residence at White Rock. He showed students how to operate a zoom lens and shared exciting stories from his experiences shooting wildlife photography. Students were mesmerized listening to Paul's stories and shocked to hear his perspective on the values of their hometown. These opportunities engage students within their community and help them understand their place in the world and the privileges of that place. Next slide, please. This all culminated in a final project designed by each student. Students were given vintage 35mm cameras and 8 rolls of film. Students chose famous photographers like Ansel Adams, Dorothea Lange, or Irving Penn to study and better evaluate their own photographs. And the final project enabled student agency. I made the students choose a subject matter and setting within the community. Students had to conceive of and execute their own compositions and then work through their process, balancing many technical variables. For example, the photographic enlarger posed many challenges to students and forced them to work through trial and error. When I started this instruction, the students required a lot of guidance, but by the end of the class, students understood the process and were self-sufficient in the darkroom. I had a lot of fun and my students did too. Thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, Bella, thank you so much for sharing about your project and your work. It's exciting to see how you connected with place-based education principles and bringing in so many community members and artists, as well as your colleagues to inspire and to work with your students as well. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure next to invite Shane Fuller from the Canvas Hub to share about his project. Shane.
Hello, my name is Shane Fuller, and I'll try to do this before I get interrupted by a screaming child. Yeah, I'm the teacher at Neodesha High School, and I did special ed in greenhouse. And with the grant we received, we did some upgrades to some of our aging and broken equipment. The biggest thing would be like our water lines and actuators that were damaged in a freeze. I think it was 2 years ago. And so this is the first year that we ever had him going again. So next slide, please. Sorry. So with the capillary mats, that's what the actuators are for, up and going again. It let us focus on doing like little experimental things. The picture there of my girls, they've got carrots they picked that we grew, and I had like 30 students that got to eat a carrot that they had grown from seed, and some of them never tasted. They called them wild carrots before, and I was like, yeah, they're not really wild, they're just you grew them yourself. but we had lettuces and stuff like that that we got to experiment with, and with the actuators and everything that we had going, it really made a big impact on our product, and that benefited my students and that benefited the community. I didn't get a picture of it on the day of our grand opening, but we had customers from the front all the way to the back, and it was crowded and it was fun, and it was just a really good experience for everybody. And then on my next slide, I have a video that my students put together that kind of showcased a lot of what we did. And then I will mute myself so that you don't hear the screaming and crying going on in the background.
We're at the greenhouse in Neodesha, and I'm going to talk about the stuff that we bought with the grant money. We have the actuators, which control the hanging baskets, that just like the drip water, and then the watering tables, which help water our plants. Right here we have the drip system, which we are currently growing a tomato plant in. And over here we have the compost bin, which we are making our own dirt in to save some money. Show how it works. You like spin that one, open it up, and that's where the dirt is. Same thing with the other side. Really? Amen. And next we have all the plumbing we have done around the greenhouse. All of the blue plumbing is all the new, which goes to the actuator and to the watering tables, which is shown all around. And then as we keep going back here, it shows how it runs all the way around the greenhouse from both sides. Thank you!
Yes, so I think I've got an hour's worth of outtakes from the different students trying to do that. So it was a very fun experience, and I thank you guys for the opportunity. It was a blast.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Shane. It's exciting to see how you and your students brought the greenhouse back to life. And I think to hear the layer of how you're bringing that food to the community, and it sounds like getting funds to help reinvest in the greenhouse and farm program. That's tremendous, and paying it forward to your future students. Thank you. All right. Our next presenter is Amy Sampson from the Missouri Ozarks. Amy, I'll let you take it away.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Amy, you are a little jumbled for us right now.
Okay. Hold on a second. Is that better?
Yeah, this seems a little better.
Or worse. Yeah. Is that better? Okay. So I'm Amy Sampson, and I live in Monette. And so with my project, with the $2,000, my students, I teach a place-based education class, and it's an English class, but everything that we read is about the area that we live in, or the town that we live in. And so after our Monette unit, we usually just do kind of like a timeline project, just kind of something, you know, it's not horrible, it's a good project, but with the grant money, I was able to ditch that project. And what we did instead is, this was actually a student idea, it wasn't even my idea. The kids said, we have a lot of really cool history in our town. What if we created signs and put them up around town with the money if we win the grant? And I was like, sounds good to me. So then I wrote the grant, won it. I was obviously more excited than my students, but after, you know, if we fast forward kind of to the end, the kids are really excited once we did get the signs up, and they were really proud of, you know, the fact their names are on them. They put in all this, you know, extra research and time, and we collaborated with two historians, one from the area and one from the Monette Museum. And that was really fun and interesting because we went through probably 9 rounds of edits just to make sure that they were fact checked correctly, and we still had mistakes. So we had to fix a couple things after that. But the impact that I've seen from both my students and the community, the biggest thing was just, you know, we had a ribbon cutting ceremony. We had a ton of people show up. So it's just really great to see just the support of your community. but also just, you know, running into strangers. Like I have a new part-time job at our hospital, and I ran into some lady, I have no idea who she is, and she's like, hey, I'm so-and-so, I work here, glad to have you on board, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, oh, you're the lady that helps get the signs up. And I was like, yeah. And then she went off on some tangent about how she was related to somebody on a sign and how meaningful it was to her that that event and that person were commemorated. So I think that's going to be kind of the long term. People who there for a long time are connected to those places. Also, my students are proud of themselves because, you know, I've heard multiple of them say, you know, hey, my name's on a sign, and, you know, they'll go by with their parents and their parents are really proud of them. So my community and parents and the kids are all just really proud of this grant and proud of just the project and the stuff that the kids did. You don't have to push play on the video because it's actually too long for our time. But I did create a video that you guys can watch later at your own leisure. And if you go to the next slide, specifically made them school colors. So our school colors are purple and gold, and you can see just some different locations and some different things that are commemorated. And that's our ribbon cutting ceremony. And then down, those are some ladies who volunteer at the museum, and that sign's going to be put up outside the museum. So thank you guys very much for this grant, and just very grateful to receive it and to do something really phenomenal in our community. So thank you.
Oh, that's really exciting to hear. Thank you, Amy. And I appreciate the connections with, as Carlin did, connecting with the history of your place and getting the student work out and visible in the community. I think for the students to see the meaning of in their work to other community members like you described, and to have their names out there, that's big and important. Thank you very much, Amy. For everyone, I will add the link to Amy's video to the chat so you'll have access to it. And I'll say also that we're about halfway through our presentations right now. And so what I'd like to do is give you just about a minute to take a quick stretch break, to look out your window, and to enjoy your place a little bit. And we'll come back together in just about a minute to resume presentations right after that. So take a quick break and enjoy your place. All right, you can make your way back to your screen. And next up, I'm excited to welcome Ginger Martin from the New England Hub.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, Friday afternoon. Hope everyone's doing all right. I am a physical science teacher here at Lee Academy. We're in Lee, Maine. You can kind of see by the map up here where we're located. We've been here, or Lee Academy has been here for about 177. We're working on our 178th year. Our mission and our programs have evolved to meet the changing needs of our students and also the historical eras or times that have passed throughout our community and throughout what our community needs are during various times throughout that history. Our mission is to foster individual excellence and personal growth through the acquisition of skills and knowledge that has endured over these 170 plus years. We value working together with our community and partnerships that we're building, constantly building those as we promote kinship, respect, and success throughout our world. Our student body is composed of about 117 students. 80% of these students are from 19 different rural Maine communities, and some of them travel well over an hour and 60 plus miles to get here on a daily basis. And it also involves 7 different countries for students that are part of our boarding program. This population includes lots of different cultural and socioeconomic backgrounds. Students from those different types. Students often struggle with challenges such as food insecurity. So this project was meant to expand their ability to produce food for themselves and their families moving into their future. One thing I do want to mention is that before I actually received this grant, the greenhouse hadn't been utilized in a significant amount of time, like decades. And the floor was able to get refinished last year. And so we were able to actually utilize it this year. And with this grant, we were able to actually expand its use so we could upgrade different things. Students in our Excel program, which is an alternative ed program, built tables, made business plans, had to do a budget proposal, went down to the local mill here, the wood yard, and they worked with them, and they were excited to find out that they could purchase some of these materials, learn different skills, use different tools to assemble and put those tables together for us. They also were able to do some programming to set up a new motor that would lift this upper vent in the greenhouse once it reached a certain temperature, and then close again once it decreased in temperature. Since I actually put this slideshow together, we've been able to put in an automatic misting system. So that's also been an additional piece, which has been really useful. Since the last couple of days, we've been experiencing some extremely high, way above normal temperatures up here in central northern Maine. So the physics students also were able to assemble, connect the electrical grow light system when we first started a seed planting. The students in the Earth Systems class, chemistry and environmental science students planted several different seed varieties and tested the soil nutrients throughout different stages of the plant's growth, especially during transplantation times. Students were responsible for the transplanting, watering, nurturing, and monitoring of their plants through this period of time as well. You'll see lots of them kind of having fun with different experiments there. Yep, go ahead. What the students, I think, have learned is to establish a habit. Things need time to grow, and they also need to be tended and taken care of. Establishing a routine. Some students would come in and be like, Miss Martin, I need the keys to the greenhouse. I need to water my plant, even on a day where they didn't have class. Like, they were excited to see, and or occasionally be like, oh no, I think my plant's dead. Can I plant it again? And I'm like, sure. So, so some of them had to start over a few different times. And so I think that was an important lesson for them as well. So yeah, outdoors, we hadn't planted them outside yet. Some of them are outside right now, but they're not replanted. We're going to actually plant them in the outdoor community garden next week as our final week approaches. And in addition to that, we're planning on doing the cooking and the canning and the preserving next week as well. Some of them actually have green beans and peas that have already sprouted and squash blossoms. So it's pretty exciting. Go ahead. Yeah, so we are planning on, this is our outdoor classroom, which clearly has nothing in it yet, but we're working on it. In the community garden. We also have 2 fruit trees that are going to be added along with these other fruit trees that you see. Those are going to be transplanted next week. All the produce that comes from it will be free to the community. They can come and harvest whatever they need as they need it. And in addition to that, students, any overflow or extra plants, students are going to be allowed to take those home and transplant them in their own yards and watch them grow and tend to them throughout the summer. And I've asked them to send me some harvest pictures later on as their plants grow and progress. In addition to that, we're hoping to get a small group of students to put up a display at our local Springfield Fair. And they're on their 173rd year, so we're kind of trying to add some more agricultural pieces to that program as well and make those local connections to our school and students. That was really fast, but thank you so much for this opportunity.
Awesome. Thanks, Ginger. I appreciate seeing another greenhouse and the different innovations that you and your students are bringing to it to support long-term use and preserving of food and to support in a changing, evolving climate as well. Thank you. There is at least one question for you in the chat, so check that out when you get a chance. And next up is Elizabeth Kruger from the North Dakota Hub. Elizabeth.
Hi, thanks for having me. So my name is Elizabeth Kruger. I'm in my 7th year of teaching. All 7 of them have been in this tiny school in Fort Ransom, North Dakota. Established as a military fort in 1867, this tiny town located in a valley on the Cheyenne River has a beauty that's uncommon in North Dakota because of its rolling hills and abundant trees. North Dakota's, oops, sorry. I got a message that you can't hear me.
It's pretty soft. I don't know if you're able to speak up a little bit. That would be helpful.
Sure. So I was just saying that Fort Ransom is kind of different from the rest of North Dakota. Is that a better volume?
Yeah, I think that's good. Thank you.
And sometimes taking out my earpiece helps.
That's much better. Thank you.
That was it. Sorry about that. So Fort Ransom is different from the rest of North Dakota. North Dakota is pretty darn flat, but Fort Ransom has rolling hills and abundant trees. The rest of North Dakota is fairly treeless. And the population in Fort Ransom is less than 100 people. I get a kick out of hearing people say, you know, it's a small town, and then you go on to say that there's 2,000 or 4,000 people. We have less than 100 people in Fort Ransom, and though she be but little, she is fierce. Because of the rich history, amazing year-round recreational activities, a killer craft fair every fall, and a state park that's located on the outskirts of town, thousands of people experience the magic of Fort Ransom every year. Our students wanted to learn more about the area through research and interviews of family and community members. If you can do the next slide, please. So our project started with brainstorming ideas for inclusion. The whole student population, all 24 of them, suggested ideas of places of interest in and around Fort Ransom. Our initial list was more than 24, and we narrowed our focus to 3 with the intention of adding more year by year. The students did an excellent job of picking 3 very different but representative aspects of their community. We decided on a few possible interview questions the students could use as a starting point. And because we thought it would be most efficient for them to record the interviews, and those recordings are absolute gold, we also discussed asking permission before hitting the record button. When they were ready with an interview scheduled, they took home their school tablet. Next slide, please. After compiling information from research and interviews, our story map was created, and I cannot recommend highly enough this program and this website. It's easy to navigate and create with tons of potential for other projects. As I've been watching these projects, I've been thinking, oh, that would fit perfectly with StoryMap. Our story not only includes maps for finding locations around the Fort Ransom area, there are website links and interesting bits of information. A QR code was generated, which leads to our story map website. And these QR codes are mounted on posts placed in public community areas around Fort Ransom. And they are also indicated on our story map. So kind of like a you are here, you might want to go here, here, or here. Next slide, please. Our hope is that casual visitors to the area will access our story map and further explore Fort Ransom. And so this is a picture of our students with the posts, and they go in, they were put into cement in these buckets and then put around town. And the mayor of of the town was tasked with pouring the cement and putting them into the buckets. Especially gratifying with the interviews was a brother and sister who came to us in February as an interim place when the family was moving from Minnesota to South Dakota. They were a military family and had moved around a lot and landed at Grandma and Grandpa's for just a couple of months. They came to stay with grandparents until finding their permanent home, and listening to the appreciation of the grandparents during the interviews and the fun that the kids had asking the questions was everything that I'd hoped for with this project. And we do hope to add some more because, like I said, there are some amazing places around Fort Ransom. And so we hope every year to add a few more to our story map.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Elizabeth. I added that link to the story maps to chat for folks. And I think hearing another layer of ways to connect history and community, and to see how you did that with your elementary age students in a really intergenerational project is exciting. Thank you very much. Our next presenter is Michelle Zollers from the Northern California Hub. Michelle.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can.
Super, thank you. I really appreciate this wonderful opportunity. My school is in the foothills near Mount Lassen National Park. We're a really small unincorporated area, but beautiful. We have 3 classrooms from TK to 8th grade. If you notice on this first slide, there's a contrast between 2014 and 2022. And if you notice the little white arrows, I'm going to get back to telling who those 2 girls are in just a moment. Can you go to slide 2? So in 2014, a parent named Dale Baugh built a greenhouse, chicken coop, and 9 large raised garden beds on our school grounds. But unfortunately, the water was cut off to that area, trash began to accumulate, and we could not really use our garden area until the water was restored. And then the Celia B. Godsell grant gave us the opportunity to restart all the garden projects. And so I'll talk about what we did with our funds restoring the oasis. Slide 3. We owe thanks to many community members who also helped us. Our neighbor, Richard McConnell, led the 6th to 8th grade students in building a new chicken run to expand the coop. And with the extra room, we were able to raise 14 meat chickens. Those are not pictured on the slides, but the 6th to 8th grade students got to process those and put those in our kitchen. We raised 18 chickens through 3 snowstorms. That was hard, but that resulted in 9 hens in the coop that should be laying soon. We have also another neighbor who helped us with our planting of our seeds, but because of the cold weather, we had trouble getting our seedlings going, and we just learned a lot through this process. The students learned how much work it takes to get our gardens going. So we learned from negative as well as positive opportunities. We have, I'm sorry, if you could go to the next slide. We're thrilled to have 2 thriving beds of strawberries, a bed of carrots, a bed of onions, tomatoes, squash, melons, peppers, some raspberry and blueberry bushes. The 3rd to 5th grade class planted thriving beds of lettuce, and the K2 teacher's husband made 6 new planter boxes to grow peas and other crops. And you see those pictured here. We bought a fruit salad tree in memory of Dale Baugh. He sadly died of cancer this year. That's his daughter standing with his tree. She was the little girl with the large cabbage on the first slide. So she's been with us through this whole process, and she gets to help tend this thriving garden that her dad started for us. The other, I apologize. I'm looking at my notes. So you can see we're creating a real organic farm to fork school. If you could go Oh, there it is. I was looking for the picture at the bottom. I could not have done this without my teen volunteers. You see me pictured on the bottom with 2 teenagers who graduated from my class, and they volunteered 50 hours each to moving trash, to fertilizing the soil, helping with planting and caring for the chickens over spring break. So they were really instrumental in getting this off the ground. They've also inspired other graduates to consider volunteering at the school even after graduating, because we're a small community and many hands make light work. So the students love getting out in these spaces and learning about science in a hands-on way. It has been such a bonus to our school. There's so many things we still want to do, that we still want to we want to do more. So the impacts will continue. One of the impacts is that we plan to donate 10% of our harvest to the Anderson Cottonwood Christian Assistance Food Bank, which gives out over 9,000 food boxes per year. So we don't have a harvest yet because we got a late start from the snowstorms, but we do plan to donate to their cause. And our students will get to eat the delicious crops as well. It's really getting members of our community excited. We have someone who's donating a bunch of tomato plants to us this week, and next week we're getting some more chickens from someone else. So we really appreciate you for helping us revive this space in our garden. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing about your project, Michelle. It's great that you're able to engage your student and helping to remember her father as a part of that as well. Thank you for sharing about that. And you've got some props in the chat as well for having both the egg and the meat chickens as well. Thank you.
And we're planning, I'm sorry to interrupt, we're planning to do that again next year. It was such a success that they want to do it next year and expand the project. They're really excited.
Wow, that's great. Well, and I think that infusion of funding to support farm and garden programs helps to grow it in the future as well. So that's great.
Thank you.
Awesome. Next up is Mark Roy from the Northern Rockies Hub. Mark.
Good afternoon or morning, depending on whether you are east or west of me right now. I'm Mark Roy, and I'm really excited to share a little bit about the building of a greenhouse to support our traditional plants project here at Washington School. I came to Wyoming in 1987 to work as an outdoor educator, and I stayed to raise an amazing family and to work at the best school that I can imagine being at. Wyoming is rural. We are the least populated state density-wise in the union. We have more antelope than people, and I trust that will stay that way despite the effects of this past winter, which killed an incredible number of animals, unfortunately. Work on the Wind River Reservation, which is located on the eastern foothills of the Wind River Mountains, and is home to the Eastern and Shoshone and Northern Arapaho tribes. It incorporates 3,500 square miles of mountain stage. There are about 27,000 inhabitants. I work in the Fort Washakie area and serve, which is a community of separated villages. And there are about 1,700 people in this community. You may have heard the Wind River Reservation from the popular movie Wind River, which is a half-truth focusing on, unfortunately, on violence and ignoring the beauty and culture of this place. Some of the beauty and culture is demonstrated by the 2 young men in the picture, 2 of my students who are planting chokecherry trees. They are part of the Fort Washakie School, which serves about 600 pre-K through 12 students. And we're going to get into this chokecherry background for the project right now. So in May of 2021, this community was rising from, beginning to rise from the tragic effects of the pandemic. Fremont County School District 21, with the support of Wyoming Grow Our Own 307, sponsored a community event to honor people who had passed away. These are people who had laid the foundations of community that we would stand on to grow out of these hard times. We planted over 150 trees, as well as several sacred cedars and and buffalo berry and currant bushes. We've been caring for that grove, Memorial Grove, since then. Dara, who works with Wyoming Grow Our Own 307, and I talked a lot, and she ended up coming into our class afterwards and saying, doing a presentation with my students about relationships between people and plants. And she brought sagebrush seeds that were given to her by her grandfather, and we planted those and grew them, and I promptly killed them. So beginning with the design process of killing sagebrush plants, we started to explore this idea. Can we develop a natural area for science and culture? Next slide. And so we applied the design thinking process, and I put some links in here that I will put into the chat later on that detail a little bit more about our design process and our couple of culture resources. But I'll put those into the chat later. But we applied the design thinking process to the driving question: can we design and develop a sagebrush community science study and cultural resource area on our campus? We've got a beautiful campus with 100% manicured landscaping, except for the debris pile pushed aside from the construction. And we thought, well, maybe sagebrush, a native natural plant, could grow there. And so we started to investigate that. We started with field trips to introduce students to the idea of an ecological community. We incorporated the help of our partners from Teton Science School, who brought grad students to work with kids in this observation activity, as well as elders from the community. From there, we developed questions and began brainstorming, and again, using elders and other experts, including Gina Klingerman from the BLM, a mines reclamation specialist who works with sagebrush communities, and ethnobotanist John Meinzinski. We ended up coming up with some action items. We harvested seeds, and by golly, when we planted them, they grew. We planted some right away in the fall for Native American Heritage Month celebration, and we stored some away, anticipating that we would plant them in the spring in our greenhouse. Any good design process includes contingencies if something doesn't work out. So when we didn't have the greenhouse built, in time to plant, we planted them under my grow light in class, and as you can see in the picture, we actually got sagebrush growing from seeds they harvested, and that was very exciting. We investigated more with our elders. We investigated more with experts, asked more questions, went back to step one of the design thinking process, came up with identified some medicines that we could plant from the elders. And this spring, we were able to plant prickly pear cactus, bitterroot, and evening primrose into our study area, along with what we had planted in the fall was sagebrush. In next fall, if I can keep the sagebrush alive, we will plant these seedlings that we started. But we didn't give up on the greenhouse. And in May, the picture in the lower right-hand corner shows students building the components of a geodesic dome greenhouse. Next slide, please. We chose the geodesic design because it was something that was being led through, again, Wyoming Grow Our Own 307. It was a local community project, teaching project with help through the University of Wyoming. It was consistent with cultural values in its shape. It is effective in resisting the winds of Wyoming. And this is what we got done yesterday. Yes, yesterday we did this. So we've got this structure coming up. We're still waiting for the plastic covering and some materials for the vents and the wood. But would you go ahead and click the picture, Leslie? We began with putting the pieces together under the tutorage of Dara and other community members, middle school students, cut every board, drove every nail, sunk every screw to make every component of something that doesn't come as a kit. I didn't choose the easiest thing to do. Next slide. And we got great support from our younger summer school kids yesterday, who came out yesterday to cheer us on, to throw some dirt, to learn about it, to get excited about having their families come out and make use of this when it's completed, because this will not be just for our school, this will be a community resource. Next slide, please. And it was put together with cooperation from our teachers and from our community members to see the structure that is behind these screens. And next slide. In the hopes that we will develop a Bohovi community, OHOV is Shoshone for sagebrush, and we have a language component that goes with this to deepen the connection of the diversity and beauty of a sagebrush community, OHOV community. This picture demonstrates the natural community that we want to be able to investigate through science classes, and as well as the cultural community with its medicines and its relationships between individuals and its diversity. I am deeply grateful to the Seeley Gotzel grants in place, the Rural School Collaborative, my school administration, especially the business office, for my steering committee, who was made up of 6 people who helped me to do the cultural dance in an intercultural situation and give me good and patient and caring guidance. To Gina Klingerman from the BLM and John Mayanzinski, our ethnobotanists. But most important, I'm grateful to my students, who are my most immediate and inspiring community contacts. Thank you.
Mark, wow. That you finished it yesterday is so profound, and are able to share it with us now today. Thank you for your project and for really the deep integration of culture and place and community in your project as well. Thank you. And I'm pleased now to introduce our final fellow of the afternoon, Michelle Engel from the Pacific Northwest Hub.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michelle Engel. I teach at Monument School District in a very rural school district. I have to say, only I think one of the other teachers had a district similar to ours. So right now we have 61 students in K through 12. I teach 7th through 12th grade language arts in the morning, and then at one period of 7th and 8th grade science, and then I have welding, wood shop, leadership, and I also oversee all the college classes here at our district. But so little bit about me other than that is I am a 4th generation resident to this community. So I have a very, very strong tie to it and love it here. I raised my children here. It's a great place to live and enjoy the nature, the great outdoors. And you'll see in the picture, I'm literally standing at my school shop and taking a picture of those are the school buildings and the field, and the little town is right behind in the trees, and it is very small. We have a store about the size of a 7-Eleven store. It is a gas station. It's kind of the community hub for all the gossip and the events that are happening here in our community. And then we have a local power company that serves probably, I'd say about 800 residents, but we're talking within like 100 and probably about 100 miles radius of us. And then we have a little post office. But other than that, there's not much here. There's maybe 100 people that live in the town. But it is an absolutely beautiful place to live. And I want to do a shout out to all the other teachers real quick too. I'm so impressed with all of your projects. I'm just like amazing. Okay, so my project started quite some time ago, and it was the idea of it started, and it was to rescue the sinking tombstones in the historical cemeteries in the area. And my students, my leadership kids said, we're going to do this regardless of whether we have money or not. So we're going to just do what we can. And so we started it before we got the grant, which was wonderful. So we started it in September. We started kind of doing the groundwork for it. We knew we needed to learn how to pour concrete. So all the students, there's 14 of them in my shop class, had to learn how to mix and pour concrete, build forms. So we did that. And then the next step was we had to meet with the cemetery board. Oh, I should say next slide, probably. Good. Okay, this view that you see in the background, that's literally, I'm taking a picture to the east of our school. So we get to look at all this beautiful land all day long at school. But so the kids met with the cemetery board and they were very, very supportive of it. And then of course our community started hearing about it. And then it wasn't long before we were in the Grant County newspaper, which is the largest county in our state. It is bigger than some of your states back east, but so we got some great feedback there, and it was full speed ahead. Kids started picking tombstones that they wanted to work on, and you'll see in the top of this slide, this is literally one of the tombstones. Completely, this is what we've been dealing with. Completely sunk in the ground, barely see it. We then had to dig them up and put forms under them, pour some concrete. And we did in the fall, we had to do a little experiment on whether we wanted to do concrete or whether we wanted to use those HVAC unit platforms. And we discovered that both worked fine. So just depending on the area, we just had to make a decision whether we're using one or the other. But in terms of science, the kids had to learn about swelling of the ground during different times of the year when, moisture levels cause the ground to swell. And so we had a really bad winter this winter, so we worked on it in the fall, and then we were shut down, and then we had a very wet spring, which was unusual. So we're continuing to work on it, but as of now, you can go to the next slide. As of now, so this is the kids working at one of the cemeteries. We have finished, I think we're at 11 tombstones now. We've also done some maintenance on some tombstones, which we learned about maintenance when we went to about 3.5 hours to Pasco, Washington. We went to a mortuary up there and met with some monument people on how to work on the tombstones that are starting to fall over. The tower tombstones, the tops start coming loose of the platforms. So we learned about how to reset them and what we do to hopefully help them for another 30 years. But so we've done quite a few of those. And next slide, please. Okay. And so this you will see, in April, we were picked up in a Pacific Northwest magazine, The Rulite, and my leadership kids actually took their project to state and shared it at a state level. So it was down near Portland, and they won first place. And we are now taking that project to Georgia to share it at the nationals. And that will be, we're going to leave June 19th for that. So I wanted another celebration besides the kids getting all these honors because of their project. I had an elderly man call me. He gets that Grant County newspaper. He lives down in Lake Oswego, Oregon. So that's 250 miles away. And I'm going to get choked up about this. He called and he was just so proud of this project. And he said, that's what he said. He said, without forefathers, we would not be here. We owe them appreciation, so they will never be forgotten, and we learn about ourselves because of what we learn about them. But I'm sorry, I still kind of get so passionate about it. But a wonderful project, and I thank you so much to the Grants in Place for allowing us this opportunity, because it is expensive. It's been an expensive project, but super excited to share it with more people across the country. So anyway, thank you so much. I'm sure I ran over my time.
Michelle, thank you. It's clear that your passion for this project and for your students and for the incredible impact that they're having in your place and preserving that history and the memories of those who have been there is tremendous. Thank you very much. Yeah. And that is our final presentation. So I'd like to invite everyone now to unmute, and we're going to share just a little bit of congratulations and appreciation for all of the fellows and all of the work that they've done. So I'll stop sharing, unmute, and let's give them a round of applause.
Good job.
Good job, everybody.
Nice
job.
Great.
Good job.
Awesome.
Wonderful. Yeah, very incredible. Very proud of all of you.
And very inspiring. The projects are all so inspiring and give me ideas for the future.
Oh, agreed. It is a real treat to get to hear from you all, and just inspirational on a Friday afternoon and at the end of end or wind down of a long school year too. To have this inspiration is really, really profound. And I thank you all for that too. We have time probably for one or maybe two questions. That could be for multiple fellows or for one fellow specifically. If anyone would like to.
Leslie, would you mind if I said something, please?
Please go ahead, Celia.
Thank you, everyone, for, I'm sorry, I'm going to get choked up too. Oh, all that you have done. This has been a real honor to fund this for the third year. This was done, this came about, and I don't know if anybody knows the back history. I was a teacher for 35 and a half years, and my husband wanted to honor me in a way when I retired, but didn't know how to do it. And he knows that I spent thousands and thousands of dollars in my classroom year after year after year, which is what we do, because that's what we do. And so he decided with the Galesburg Community Foundation, which in turn was with Rural Schools, to put together this grant opportunity. And in the 3 years, it has been a real pleasure to see all of the applications that have come in and all of the creative folks that are out there, which I know, and I wish that I could fund every single one of the projects. Particularly this year, there were well over 100 applications, but you all have done just an incredible job, and your students are blessed to have you in their lives. They are now lifelong learners, green and growing, and it will never quit, and they will remember you and what you have done for them forever. So thank you for continuing to help the world be a better place. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Celia, for your generosity, for your family's generosity, and really helping to be such an important spark in these projects and in the communities that they're in as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I think I'm going to change the pace a little and just turn it back to Taylor with my gratitude for getting to be part of this event and facilitating and allowing you all to share your stories. Taylor, if you'd like to close us out.
Thank you so much, everybody. This is my favorite event that we do all year long. And it's so wonderful to hear more about your projects and the ways in which these bridges that you're building between the community and your students are fostering this sense of pride. And we know that that is sort of a first step in students really feeling connected to their place. And we hope then, to have some skin in the game and some joy and perhaps becoming a future rural resident, current community leader in the ways they're interacting in their communities. So this project is really one of the best things that we do at Rural Schools Collaborative, and we absolutely would not be able to do this without the support of Mark and Celia Godsoul. So Celia, I'm so thankful you could join today and thankful for your support of this project. It started so small where Rural Schools Collaborative was writing like $50 checks and handing them to teachers way back in the day. And so this has really infused this project with so much more reach and light and depth. And it's just been so wonderful to have you here today and to hear from all of you teachers. So I want to also give an extra shout out to our regional hub partners who helped get the word out in their local communities and that partner with the Rural Schools Collaborative, to our board who is super supportive of this work and has been great advocates. And also give a shout out to Teton Science Schools and Leslie. So if you are ever curious to learn more about place-based education, I just want to share their resources page here in the chat for some great inspiration. Leslie and her team also do a great job if you want to take some courses on place-based education or need a presentation for your school. So it's so great for us to be able to partner with Leslie and their expertise around place-based education. And we can really see here today the impact that's it's making in these communities. So it makes it feel really real for us. I also know that Savannah, I want to give you a shout out. You don't always need to be in the spotlight or desire to be in the spotlight. I just get to sweep in and take credit for all your amazing work. So I know that everyone got to work with you throughout the year supporting these students. So Savannah, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You are the reason why we could all come together today. So thanks for all you do from our team at RSC. So Leslie or Savannah, I'll kick it back to you. Thanks for giving me just a few minutes here on the tail end to express some gratitude.
Yeah, thank you for that, Taylor. And I just loved hearing, different weather and other circumstances that you all, overcame during these projects and many years before and many years to come. So thank you all as rural educators for all that you do and your incredible projects. I am so appreciative of you all, and I hope you all deserve your well-deserved summer break. Thank you so much. Leslie, I'll kick it back to you.
Sounds good. Well, with that inspiration and good energy on this Friday afternoon, we'll let all of the non-fellows sign off for now. Fellows, if you will stay on for just another couple of minutes, Savannah has a couple final announcements. So thank you all again for being here and being part of this celebration of learning and work from this year. Cheers.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good summer.